Hey everybody, Alex here with another edition of Momentum Charting. Today we are going to be getting into the broad markets again, the charts of the QQQs. Guys, if you have not yet done so, jump down below, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification. Make sure you do not miss a single update moving forward on the broad markets on the Momentum Charting channel. Thank you so much for being here. So guys, very, very interesting markets. Today, a lot of people, a lot of short-term traders, a lot of day traders, a lot of speculators caught completely off guard, okay, with the extreme amount of bullishness in the markets. But if you watched the close of last week's videos, you will see why I was very, very bullish on these markets. And the kind of day we had today is basically exactly what I was expecting. Not caught off guard. If you were here following the channel, thank you so much for doing that. But guys, I think in the short kind of medium term, we've got a very, very clearly defined market here. And to illustrate what's happening in the Qs, I almost kind of like the chart right now of Apple, and kind of going back to where one of the earlier videos I did towards the beginning of last week, I made a reference to the chart of Apple and how I saw that as very, very important to keeping the trend of the QQQs going. So kind of when I do my analysis on the Qs for the foreseeable future, at least in the next couple weeks, just because they're so much in sync right now, I plan on kind of using like a half Qs, half Apple chart kind of thing. So you're going to see me utilizing both charts in each breakdown of each stock and each index. So just the chart of Apple right now, just a little bit cleaner to me, a little bit better look, a little bit better feel to me. So I do plan on using that along with the analysis of the Qs moving forward. But specifically on the chart of the Qs right now, what I believe we are set for here is our next up leg to the Qs. And I'm going to go down here in the chart of the 10-minute, okay? And some of you will probably remember back here in late July, where I set this trend line on a 10-minute time frame on the Qs. And I said that if we broke down to the downside on this, what I thought to be at the time rather important trend line on the Qs, that was going to bring a period of sideways movement or increased volatility, and that's basically exactly what happened. And as we get into the chart of Apple, I'm going to show you exactly why that is and what I think is happening on the Qs and what could happen on Apple as well. But I believe we have the next trend line very similar to the one in late July here, now established itself in the Qs, and this is what I believe the trend line is set at here on the 10-minute time frame. We've got the touch point here, 6:40 in the morning on August 19th, and again here at 11:40 in the morning on August 19th. So this is going to be our base case move to the upside line in the Qs. I want to watch it. It's a pretty nice, pretty steep line, and I do believe that this trend line here has a chance to carry the Qs to reasonable heights in this particular trend. So what I think is probably going to happen here, guys, I don't know if it's going to happen necessarily tomorrow, but maybe sometime during the day tomorrow, we may come up here a little bit higher and get some sort of correction. But I believe that what's going to happen when we get that, whether it happens tomorrow or whether it happens maybe sometime midweek, right? Something more like this. But I believe when the markets have this sort of really, really micro degree correction, it is going to come back down here and test this trend line. And then we're going to start working higher off this trend line. But guys, when we do, and it is going to happen, okay, when we do eventually break this trend line to the downside, I believe that's what's going to happen is that we are going to come down to the magnetic trend line, which in the Qs, I'm going to show you this in both the Qs and in Apple. And right now, our magnetic trend line is the midterm trend line, which is this one right here. Very, very important touch points here on July 19th, 10:40 in the morning, and then again here August 19th around 6:30 in the morning. So this to me right now is our midterm uptrend line. And what usually happens, guys, in markets, when you start getting these vertical moves, and eventually the vertical moves always do break down, okay? Markets do not go up like rocket ships without coming back down eventually. The point of attraction, the magnet point, is going to be this right here, right? And this is kind of the midterm trend line I've got set on the Qs. So I believe right now, okay, we are not crossed through that through this important trend line yet. Now, what also could happen, of course, when we break it is very, very similar to what happened here in July, where we just started chopping back and forth for a number of weeks before we finally, you can see here, just finally eventually hit this trend line. So I believe something like that is going to happen when we eventually do break this down, this uptrend here in the Qs. But for right now, guys, we have not yet broken that, and we are still seeing increased price movement to the upside on the Qs. I'm going to be watching once again this line of support very, very closely, and I think this is a very, very nicely established trend line, and I think the scope and kind of the direction that this is pointed leads me to believe that this move to the upside in the Qs could be particularly strong, okay? So I'm going to be watching maybe something sideways / up for the next couple days, and then a pullback, and then continued upside movement, and this is going to be the line in the sand, I believe, on the Qs. Once this breaks to the downside, kind of a pause on markets for a little bit of period of consolidation until the next chance for the markets to break up to the upside, which could be, like I said here, as markets come back and hit this touch point of our midterm trend sometime later in this month, or possibly early in September. And let's jump over here to the chart of Apple as well. I did want to show you guys this because I thought it was very, very important. So you guys have been watching this chart of Apple with me, and I think what we have here is just a really, really nicely established trend right now. We've got the point in the Qs that I showed you. The midterm magnetic line is right here. I'm on a 2-hour chart inside of TradingView. So this is our midterm magnetic trend line, and down here we've got this just big channel that's been working since mid-August last year. But this trend line eventually will come into play, guys, but not yet. When this is going to come into play is when this midterm trend line breaks, and I'm going to show you that in a second, what I think is kind of happening here. So let's go back quickly to the 10-minute, and you guys can see here it's very similar to the Qs. We had that established, the shorter term trend line pushing to the upside. Now I do not know if what's happening right now is going to take us all the way to the top of the channel, but I think there's a chance for this trend that's happening right now to have that very, very vertical look to it. So I am watching right now for any breakdowns on Apple. If we push up higher tomorrow and then later in the week push that back down, I am looking for this trend line on a 10-minute scope to hold on Apple and continue higher. I'm going to be watching this trend line very closely for a break to the outside. When that happens, I do believe, once again, just like in the Qs, here's our midterm magnetic trend line. So I believe that what's going to happen is that when this trend line to the upside breaks, we're going to get some sort of a sideways / down movement, and eventually a retouch of this trend line down here sometime in September. It's looking to me probably. So yeah, just to kind of illustrate how these trend lines work here, I did want to show this last trend here that I thought really illustrated what I'm trying to show very well. So we had this, once again, this sort of midterm, this 2-hour, this magnetic trend line here from November, and eventually broke down here in February. But you guys can see here how we kind of got these trends here on a 10-minute time frame following to the upside, right? And eventually when they broke down, the midterm trend line acted as a magnet. You can see they pulled all the way back down here. And this happened time and time again as these 10-minute trends broke down, right? Break down here, back to the trend line. Break down, yeah, break down here. Something like this, right? Something like that. Break down here, head back to this midterm trend line. So, but then I did want to show this to you guys as well here. This is the big breakdown we had of this midterm trend line, which ushered in a period of increased volatility, broad markets breaking down, SPY breaking down, Qs breaking down, Dow breaking down, everything breaking down, which had this is a period where we had a larger market correction. So that's, I believe, the plan right now also in the Qs, guys, as well as in Apple. All right, so right now we've got this, we're in this period right here. We've got this really minute trend, short-term trend line pushing to the upside. When this does break, I believe prices at some magnitude are going to carry back down to this midterm trend line, and it's going to act as a magnet and pull prices back down here in some sort of a consolidation fashion. And then from that point, we are going to be headed back higher and probably try to test this top of our channel here at some point in the future, later in the year. But guys, basically that's the same plan for Apple, same plan for Qs. I believe they are going to look very similar. But I believe what's going to happen here on Apple eventually is this midterm trend line, this magnetic trend line, is indeed going to break to the downside. And what's going to happen when that happens is when we are going to see a larger correction in markets and possibly a return back to our long-term trend line support sometime later in the year, maybe early next year. I'm not sure exactly a time on this. We're going to have to watch. But for now, guys, what is the story? The story is we need to be aware of what's happening now. What's happening in the markets right now is bullish, okay? Bullish. We're not bearish. We're not in any shape, form, fashion bearish. We are above we're currently utilizing the midterm trend line as support. We have a short-term trend line pushing to the upside, which I showed you guys here on the 10-minute time frame. Watching for this to break, which we're not even close to having that happen yet. Going to be watching this. I think we need to take advantage of this push to the upside in Apple right now, this push to the upside in Qs. You know, it's not every day this market. Yes, we're up on the year, but it's been a pretty much of a sluggish, really choppy year as far as I'm concerned. Lots of big ups, lots of big downs. Right now we're in the period where I believe there's a chance for prices in the Qs, prices in Apple, some prices in big tech to start pushing up to the upside. I don't know how long this is going to last, a few days, a week, maybe something in that range. But I think right now is the time where we need to take advantage to the push to the upside in the Qs, jump on this trend, see where it takes us to the downside, see where it takes us to the upside, and then the downside risk, of course, is going to be coming when we break this short-term trend line to the downside. So guys, thank you so much for joining me on this video. I'm going to be watching this very closely, the chart of the Qs, chart of the Apple, to see where this trend line breaks to the downside. whether it happens in the next couple of days, whether it happens next week. You are not going to want to miss any updates on the Qs this week, next week, coming weeks. Broad market is very, very cool, very, very important stuff coming. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. I will see everybody again very shortly, probably tomorrow. Do a next Qs update tomorrow after market close. Thank you so much for being here. I will see everybody again shortly. Bye for now.